wouldn't have the room to put that up against the building and have it be a healthy plant more than a couple of years down the road.
Sorry.
Okay. Let's see if anybody else has got something to give everybody a chance. Ms. Crease, Ms. Hine?
I like what John said about the stone and then the, as dark as they could with the faux wood cement finish. I think that would look very rich.
Mr. Darrenowski?
I agree with what I said.
Okay. Ms. Duberstein?
Yes.
Any comments? No, I'm not looking at consensus. And I'm trying to give everybody a chance.
So what color are we talking about on that
Well, let's see.
I think that color, yeah, the one that your fingers on right there, I think that's a nice color.
thing? Were you talking about a much darker color, John?
Yeah, I would likely go to the top of the far right column as you're looking at the board. I think that, and again, but it also goes with, if that is an exact sample of the river stone or the stone product, it's got to work. So I don't know if it's that color, the darkest green color, or if it's the next up. I suppose the one at the top on the right looks a little bit more like coffee, so that could work for you guys. But I think I like the darker color better. I think it, like to what you said, I don't know your names, I'll get them down, but I think that would also make the stone at the corner pop more. I think it was more the same color as the rest of the building. It's not going to accentuate as much. So if I think it's a slightly one of the darker colors over the rest of the building, I think that would look better.
Like the top one on the right?
That's where I'm leaning, but I always say I'm not an architect, but, and I give my opinion anyway. But
If you look up the stone, so you can see the contrast between the two. That would be,
Is that the color?
Yes.
Is that the color the stone's going to be?
yeah.
so I think that would look, really nice, to be honest.
Well, I'm glad you brought that sample, because when you look at this diagram, you don't see.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with John, the darker, the
Yeah.
top.
So top right?
The top right. if
You
that's
live with them,
possible.
Mr. Patel?
What's it
You
called?
want it any darker than that?
I'm sorry.
I don't get it.
Jute.
It's on a contrast.
Morning flame
Okay.
brown.
What's the wood material called?
The stonework. Stone.
Yeah,
I'm not sure of the name of the color on it.
That's okay.
But that would be
Okay.
the color.
All right, before we look for consensus on that, Mr. Baird, any comments or questions?
No, I like the lighter color just from the standpoint of, me being in the industry that I'm in. Summertime, the darker colors are going to start sucking up heat and running up air conditioning bills like crazy. So the lighter you can keep most of the building, I think you're going to be out better with the stone like that, because it's got a nice texture to it.
We'll have Mr. Patel put in a larger air conditioner. All right, let's see if we can
Insulation is
reach,
not going to affect the inside.
let's see if we can reach consensus on the color,
I like the juniper.
the darker color.
Yeah, the juniper.
Top right at this point. Mr. Crease says no, that's okay. We're looking for consensus. Is in like,
I like the lighter, a little bit lighter, the next one down, on the bottom,
Ms. Hine?
because it's the same thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It would actually,
Blend in.
I think it would pop out more.
The lighter color with the lighter brick.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Hine?
I like the darker.
I'm on the dark side.
We knew that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can like
Mr. Darrenowski?
darker.
Ms. Baird already indicated lighter?
Yes.
Okay, so we're leaning towards the darker.
What's Mrs. Patel's desire? Just out of curiosity.
Are you okay with either color?
I like the contrast, honestly, the dark versus the lighter brick. We just gotta make sure that Duncan is okay with that whole building being that dark of a color. I've never seen any building out there that has that dark color of the rest of the building and the tower
You're
being.
not great.
Because
I know.
on that side, so we don't.
Yeah.
All right, well, that
Already have a-
right now we're looking at that as our preference.
Let me ask this, would it make any sense, John, if we did like two
Yeah, I was going to say.
sides of the dark color and one of, or the other two lighter?
No.
I think we keep them the same.
I would say,
Don't hold back, don't hold back.
I would say this, if we would prefer, just so that you can leave with some sort of consensus, would we all agree as a village board that we would prefer the darker colors, but would accept the lighter colors so that they can leave here with some sort of, if they go to Dunkin' Donuts corporate and they say absolutely not, they don't have to come back for a week.
Time out on that.
Well, the idea here is to put conditions, and if you're going to have conditions,
Yes.
put them in the ordinance tonight.
Yes.
The concept tonight is to discuss this, if it's possible, to a point where any conditions beyond what have already been discussed would be included in the recommendation from this commission to the village board, and would be included in an ordinance that the village board would adopt tonight. We have the framework of the ordinance already in place, and we can just add whatever conditions we come up with in this meeting. So what it might be helpful is, you gave us jute brown. What was that next lightest shade?
Oak barrel.
Oak barrel. So that if
We could put both in.
if Duncan will not authorize jute brown, that the oak barrel would be acceptable. Is that kind of the thought of the board?
I don't know, I mean, it's too easy for, sorry, Mr. Patel, but I'm just, the cynic, ask my husband, that if you put in that option and he likes it lighter, he's going to say that the corporate.
Well, we have to have some trust. This is a developing relationship.
Yeah, I mean, you, as I say, I'm the cynic. But you like it darker too, don't you?
Would you like? That's not the same.
All right,
If I could just jump in real quick and might help the attorney when drafting the conditions for approval of the special use. I think if you stipulate the darker color that you prefer, if it's a no-go, Dunkin' Donuts will tell you it's a no-go. You don't have to say, let us know if it's a no-go.
Right.
Just, if you like the darker color, stipulate the darker color. When it goes back and Dunkin' Donuts says, corporate saying absolutely not, which they won't. But if they will, they'll just tell you that. Hey, you don't have to give them the option of saying, don't let us know if it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, they'll let you know it doesn't work. So I would just stipulate the color you prefer and go from there.
We
Okay.
started to talk about the parking lot lighting and.
Hang on a second. Are we on the dark brown then?
Well, the only thing I'm looking at now, okay, with the dark brown, okay, is that cup of coffee on the side. Is gonna be almost blended to that part of the
Yeah,
wall.
that would go to a lighter color. That.
Bill, that's the
Yeah.
Bill, that green.
Well said, well said.
Okay, so,
Can I ask one?
yes, please do.
My only question is the dark, which I like, is it going to look odd with the orange? Okay. That was my only question.
So the only color on it.
Okay, we have dark pink going, we have consensus. Other issues?
I
Well,
was,
I have a quick one. On your parking lot, coming in with your drive-through, I've seen your store over on Rollins Road, with traffic backed up out on Rollins Road on Saturday mornings. Is there any way that in the conception there, and I'm thinking from the police department standpoint, of dealing with calls for service with people running into each other, how you could kind of stack them into 2 lanes and then feed them into your drive-through? Is there a possibility of doing that? Because you've got the room out there with the front parking lot, if I fed up with the driveway. Might facilitate flow through, especially during rush hour traffic, because rush hour traffic on 120 is just insane.
But they'd have to go out of the parking lot, down the street, before that would be a problem. Similar to what they're doing in Rollins, because right now, they would have to go around the building, out on Center, and so you're talking like 20 cars. I'm pretty sure if Mr. Patel has that many people waiting for coffee, then he's gonna hire some people.
You do see, Kevin, that, I don't know if you were here for the first part, that their entrance is not the old entrance to the village hall.
The white
It's
doesn't count.
not the white,
Okay.
it's further down.
Further down, all right, I'm just saying
Where
that.
the black line
If there
is?
be a way, okay, because if there be a way to double stack and coming in during peak hours, with the amount of traffic that moves across 120, wouldn't want to see it get impeded, because we have new business here, that's the whole thing.
Yeah. Dunkin's traffic in general, so those doubles are going to see on more of the food service lines, which take longer to make their meals or something. So McDonald's, the Chick-fil-A, some of those that have to compile sandwiches and make sandwiches That's why you're seeing those doubles, and they're going to that because it's more efficient for them to move through. The Duncans with their faster turnaround time. If you're gonna see, we've done plenty of traffic studies on these various things. An 8-car stack at a Dunkin' Donuts is a lot. And almost, yeah, and then even on occasion, there's a 12, and that's in a really, really busy location backed up. So even at that case, we're still in our own parking lot.
All right, that's why I was wondering
Yeah.
about the parking lots, I thought you were holding and stack or somewhere, whacking and stack.
And I think even over and above that, past the window where you pick up, you have room for people, if there is a delay, say, hey, just pull up a couple car lengths and stay there, we'll run it out to you. Like Culver's does that on everything you order. But here, almost one that never happens, I mean, we've looked at lots of Dunkin' Donuts as part of this. If you have a 7 to 10 queuing space, 7 is more than enough typically, and you even have room for 2 cars to pull up and still have cars get around, they shouldn't have any trouble at all.
Okay. All right, Mr. Duberstein.
Yes, I had questions about the lighting in the parking lot. We have LED lights throughout the village, and we would like to continue that. And I personally would like something that would be a little more decorative than your just ordinary.
What's your corporate presentation on lighting?
Usually just the standard LED, kind of the rectangular head LED lights.
Okay. George, any way,
Actually,
you have a whole comprehensive plan here?
Yeah.
Can you look at the light samples? I think our proposed preferred lighting is more ornamental.
Yeah. We've done, and it's not a problem. We're not gonna have a ton of light fixtures in the parking lot anyway, so that's,
Okay.
yeah. Whatever your ordinance is what we'll comply with, or if it's measured.
Questions? John, can you, can you let Mr. Carlson see?
Page 50.
Can I? I can see it.
It's on page 50 of the comprehensive plan.
The only issue is though that was done in 2010.
Right.
Lights that we just put in the village was a year ago. Different.
If I can just state real quick, and again, just to give some direction to this, and again, the comprehensive plan is an indication of character, what we'd like to see. It's not an ordinance or regulation per se. So as a guiding document, let me just say this. When you're looking at lighting for parking fields of this size, and even a village's parking standards are probably more onerous than they need to be. This is more on-site parking than the Dunkin' Donuts will need here. Right? Or they have to they're required to provide it. So we can look at that going forward. You can either make lighting decorative because it enhances the pedestrian character or character of an area, or you can opt for lighting that basically disappears. That's what you want here. I don't think you want lighting standards that call attention to themselves. I think you want lighting standards, the minimum number you can get away with, painted a black or dark brown matte finish on metal, not raw iron or wrought iron or white or aluminum. And you want box lighting that is recessed to the point to address 2 things. You want illumination, and then there's a line of sight glare. You want to maximize illumination on site, but it prevents a cutoff at the property line to not have spillover lighting. And you want to prevent line of sight glare to someone driving by and seeing the filament. Like, I can stand across a football field where they have the lights on, and I can be in pitch black and not read anything, but I look up, I have to squint because I can see the filament. So you have illumination, you have line of sight. So you want to make sure the illumination is the controlled box down so the cutoff is controlled. And you want to make sure the shielding is such that you don't have direct line of sight with the filament. So what I would recommend is that you go with the most simple, but not decorative, but the most simple lighting you can. Propose as few standards as you can. So that the lighting essentially disappears, that you just see the parking lot lit up, but you don't see the light source per se, and your eye doesn't draw attention to the light source per se. And I think if you do that for lighting, and the other thing, in villages and communities like this, the night sky is part of what makes the community special. You can look up and see stars, which where I live down by Hope Park before, you can't see so well. So I think that cutoff lighting is critical. So I think that we want to have those 2 things addressed. So line of sight with the filament and illumination. But I would recommend not the shepherd hooks or the decorative lighting standards you see here. This is an auto-oriented area, not pedestrian. I think you want the lighting standards to disappear. Not the building lighting, but the parking lot lighting. So I would recommend you look for standards that do that. It's pretty standard. I don't know that I would adhere to the comprehensive plan's decorative lighting for parking lots of this size and location.
Thoughts, Mr. Carlson?
Well, like I said, the standard that we typically use is an LED, similar to what John was describing. It's a fairly compact head, but it's got a nice illumination to it, and again, the shields and everything, so it does screen that, and it is a very slim line fixture. It's not the older metal halide boxes, which were a lot bigger and bulkier, and past that orange light, the LEDs cast a super crisp white light with a much thinner fixture, so it's not decorative, but it does kind of hide itself just because of what it is, and it does its job.
Okay, what I'd like to do, if the board agrees, is that when we get to the point between these two meetings, that's when we will be putting the conditions in the language. If Mr. Carlson and Mr. Patel and Mr. Halshill can sit and write up an agreement on that issue so that we meet your suggestions. Is that acceptable?
John, I think we could make it as simple as the parking lot lighting to be LED lighting that would be approved by the village planner.
I think that's it, because the other thing I'm concerned about is the illumination of the foot candles. We've all drawn it by like gas station canopies that you can see from Mars because they're so bright, and that's an attention-getting thing. Right? So, well, yeah, so I think that language is perfect.
Okay. Would you gentlemen agree to that concept? Okay, very good. Did that answer your question? Concerning lighting?
Will we see renderings before we have to pass the ordinance?
Only if you don't pass the ordinance tonight.
Okay, it'd be a simple like product cut sheet. It wouldn't even really be a rendering. It'd be sort of like a tech drawing.
This is kind of what they generally look like. It's not an exact sample, but it's.
I just was wondering if we could see what.
You want a physical sample?
No, not of the, like, back on the building, just to get an idea of what it really would look like, the changes that we're making. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any lights mounted on the building?
Yes, we have, we'll have some wall lights along the along the drive-through, and they're just wall packs that light straight down. So they don't spread out, it's not necessarily illuminating the building a whole lot, but it's lighting certainly on the side and the back.
More safety than anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the,
Safety to denote pedestrian areas. And I guess what I would ask for the attorney is to draft the language, submit a little include of a photometric plan to go along with building it on site. Right.
yeah.
Will the monument sign be, what would the material be that the monument sign is made of, and will it be lit up?
The box itself will be lit, and it's just a regular aluminum metal, brown aluminum around the black aluminum frame. And then the base will be the same stone that matches the building. So it'll be set on the base. I want to jump back, looking at the sidewalk across the front of the parking, we would probably have some wall lights that light that parking lot or the sidewalk as well, and the parking or the outdoor seating. Let's see the sign.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. So on a concrete base with the stone that matches, and then the box that's on top.
Limestone
And,
top.
The stone that matches the tower,
yes. Yeah.
and
Yes.
what's lit up?
So the box, so the part where it says it's a white background sign with the Dunkin' Donuts in the orange and pink colors, and then the drive-throughs in brown, which is dark brown. So it'd be like a background lit sign.
What's that? I haven't seen these before, so what's the height of that monument sign?
8'6"
Total,
total.
including base and sign?
Yes.
All right.
We don't have to do anything with the trees.
Hold on, you're cutting off your husband again. I'm trying to prevent marital discord. All right, Mr. Duberside.
All right, 3 quick questions.
Yes, no, and maybe.
All right. I don't know whether this is possible or not, or whether from a planning standpoint it would look good or not, but I've noticed, for example, on the Walgreens buildings, they have awnings that, and some of the other buildings would look like had awnings, and that adds to the aesthetic appeal. Is that something that is even possible, or would it add too much expense, or what's the comment?
Where would you put it?
Well, wherever it is an opening or a window.
Yeah, the windows are all covered with the orange band.
Oh.
So it kind of acts as that awning feature. It actually used to have awnings that went underneath the band, but it conflicts with the view from in the store.
Oh, okay.
It's much better with the full size window.
How far, what's the setback from the awning to the window?
So that orange band sticks out like 8 or 9
I
inches.
think it's 8
8 or 9
inches.
inches, okay.
Yeah.
Question number 2 is, once you get final approval and you go ahead with it, how long will it take, or what do you envision it would take for construction to open it? How long do you envision that would take?
Well, Suresh builds them himself by hand, so.
By the next
Starting
meeting,
tonight.
right?
The typical construction time is about 4 months for a building start to scratch. So with the good contractors, 4 months. The not as good, maybe 6, but four is the moment you're running. And then we're probably a month away or so from being able to have our drawings complete and submitted, so whatever your permit time is plus that. So about 6 months-ish. Of course, we got winter in here too, so.
We'd let you bring in a cart of donuts and start getting the people used to it. Yes.
I'm sorry. Just have one more question real quick to the architect. Real quick, when we go to the stone on the main entrance tower, can we get a little bit more return back on the side? For example, you see here, you see it's literally just the depth of that wall. Can we get a 2 or 3 foot return back on the stone product coming by, so it's a more substantial corner, as opposed to just the depth of the veneer constructed 8-inch or 6-inch, whatever that.
I'm not following.
What's about,
Are you referring to the edge right here?
Yeah, up above the parapet.
This space now?
Up above the parapet. I'm not talking about bringing the entrance feature out further. There's about an 8-inch reveal or whatever, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm talking above the parapet.
Oh, up here.
Yes, because that sort of gives it that faux, and again, it's not a true turret, but if we could get like a 2 or 3 foot back return, it gives it a little bit more gravity than with just that. You know what I'm saying?
You talking about turning the corner? Well.
Yeah, we can, yeah. That's not a problem.
Pardon?
What do we want to describe that as a condition?
I don't know what the technical term for that is, so
Yeah.
above parapet,
Tower
tower
return,
return.
right, tower return. at
It's just
parapet.
gonna add a little bit more.
On the east and north side?
The north side's already.
No, you're talking about wrapping it was.
Yeah, the south and.
The north one's gonna tee in south 2 or 3 feet, and the east elevation's gonna tee west to it.
Yeah, you could just say the ends of the
Yeah.
tower to be increased to return 2 feet.
Okay. Good progress so far.
And one final question, which probably is for you and/or our lawyer. It was mentioned earlier that the approval of the special use permit includes within it the approval of the elevation or the facade or whatever you want to call it. That to me doesn't make any sense, because let's say you had a project that didn't need a special use. How would you then deal with it? I mean, why wouldn't that be a separate issue from the special use?
Do you understand?
Well, those questions would be related to, if it's not a special use, you're probably looking at, if they're looking for a variation, you're looking at whether, if If it meets all of the village's requirements, you're not going to be looking at that. If it doesn't meet some requirement and they're required to request some change in zoning or a special use, that's when you look at those things.
Okay.
If it doesn't, I asked that of Jim before, and he said, if it doesn't comply with what our comprehensive plan is, then we can ask for.
The zoning code. It's your zoning code that is the legal document that guides those questions. Not, the comprehensive plan is a guide, it's a preference.
No, I
it's a
understand.
plan, But it's the law, it's the ordinances that you've established. And when someone wants to vary from those ordinances, that's when you have the opportunity to have these conversations.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments from the board at this time before I open it up to the public? Any party from the public that wishes to make a comment, kindly step forward, give us your name, and grab the microphone from whoever might have it, and let us know. Eric, do you have, where's the microphone? Maybe just take it off the stand, please. Here.
Thank you. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, what's your name, please?
My name is Sandra Ramirez. I'm here representing my brother. Our family business, which is Specialty Marble and Granite. We're actually your direct neighbors right behind you. So I'm concerned with I'm excited that you're coming. It's more customers for me. But I just want to know what's going to be the separation between properties. So is it a chain link fence or a wooden fence or no division at all?
Okay, so you are down south of us, right?
Yeah, right behind you.
Yeah. We don't have anything at this point. It's just the grass. It's going to be some detention area that's back there, so we'll have a little bit for the detention. But you're not planning on a fence or anything there, or are you? Okay. Yeah.
That's all. I just don't want to be blocked out.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You'll have an unobstructed walk to a cup of coffee.
I'm scared about that.
Cut me off.
Thank you. Any other questions from anyone, any of the public? Okay, let's move on down to.
Hey, just real quick, I just want to thank the applicant for the concessions they've made, because when it comes to stuff like this, you only get a chance incrementally to improve the community. One project at a time. And each time you can expect a little bit more and a higher level of quality like they proposed. Then the next guy that comes in, you can say, look what Dunkin' Donuts did. They had stone, they had nice landscaping, the lighting was appropriate. You then have a standard by which to get the next incremental improvement. So the first one out of the gate in a long time. I appreciate the effort that's coming up, because you're going to help us have that conversation with the next one to do more. So.
Thank you, John. One last chance, any comments or response from the petitioners?
No, I appreciate your input.
Okay.
I think I have one question.
No free donuts?
What are you planning on for your hours? If you have any thoughts about that?
The hours of operations are generally at most of the locations from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m.
4 a.m. to 9 p.m. Correct.
7 days a
And
week.
this particular location is probably going to be 4 to 9.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Say every day, you ask
7 days.
the answer.
7 days.
All right, our next step then, closing comments, is closing the comments, findings of fact.
Before we do the findings of fact, and
That's okay with
we just have a quick summarization of the conditions that we're talking about, including in the recommendation and the ordinance. So the first one, which we didn't really talk about as part of this process, but it's one that's important, is that Mr. Patel would need to become the owner of the property within 120 days. Is that, any problems with that?
I don't see that. No, I do not see that.
Then the second one will be that the face of the tower will be made that the face of the tower will be made of stone material.
All the way up.
The entire
tower. That stone will be installed at the base of the north and west sides of the building. drawings, that the siding will be jute brown in color, that the on-site lighting plan will be subject to submittal and approval, and that there will be additional stone materials above the ends of the tower returns. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. I mean, that's technically correct. Yeah. So no, it's above the parapet.
Above the parapet. That's what I had written, and I crossed it out.
So no, above the parapet on the return of the tower.
Above the parapet. On the return of the tower.
Sounds like a
And did I miss anything?
I think we're there.
lighting standard. You said lighting standards to include photometric plan.
Correct. On-site lighting plan to include photometric plan, subject to submittal.
Yep, the monument sign there.
That's already.
That's
That's what it is.
That's proposed.
So,
Okay. With the zoning board of appeals, any last comments? What the zoning board of appeals board will consider is whether the proposal, one, and we'll step through this one time, will be harmonious with and in accordance with the general objectives of the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance. We just need nods. Yes, okay. Yes. All yeses. That the proposal will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained so as to be harmonious with the existing and intended character of the general vicinity. Yeses, verbal? Okay. Yes. Okay. That a proposal will not change the essential character of the general vicinity. Okay? And that the proposal will not be hazardous or disturbing to existing or future neighborhood uses. Agreement? Bless you. And the proposal will not cause substantial injury to the value of the property in the neighborhood for which it is located. Okay, I need a I can do this, can I? Okay, I do this. I like to remember the board. Remember the chair. Okay. I need a motion that we let's see how motion to I think the approving will go to the full board.
To recommend.
Motion to recommend to the village board that we accept the special use permit with the conditions established here this evening.
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
I think that was John and Kevin.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, Barrett,
Aye.
Georgianne Duberstein.
Aye.
Barrett,
Yes.
Jaranowski, sorry. Hein. Kreese,
Aye.
and Duberstein, George.
And me.
Yes.
And David.
Aye.
Okay, 7 ayes, all in favor.
Motion to adjourn the zoning board of appeals.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
This line is closed at 7:56. Okay. Gentlemen, just,
I like the product placement. You guys arrange this over here.
Mr. Phelps, we will take about 10 minutes.
No, I just, yeah.
And then we'll come back and get these insurance. It's a regular board meeting.
You're fine.
Yeah, so, well,
Yeah, sure. I would just, honestly, I would just connect that to.
within that driveway, it's like how we get in and out. Yeah. Parallel to the road, it's skewed in north south direction, yes. No, well, yes, to center.
Thanks.
Yeah, no
I
problem.
ask a question, because
Every time I come there, I stack them up.
Part of the problem with my Google My Minutes account is based on
Well, I guess.
photos I didn't see the release. You have, the stone floor at the side.
They came up. They came up. I think I closed my.